something going on then that they're not allowed. This is par for the course, says Mary, with the current Idaho GOP leadership, and we're just supposed to trust them while there are many reasons to question their integrity. Okay, if Mary says you have to question their integrity, I guess you have to question their integrity. But let's get another opinion. Yes, the Idaho Statesman. Idaho Republican Party is in disarray. It is time to repair and rebuild from the chaos. Who likes to do that, to rebuild from the chaos? Isn't that revolutionaries? Am I thinking of Marxists? Even close? Nonetheless, the whole idea here is that, oh, look at the Idaho GOP. It's just so out of control, and nobody knows what's going on, and they're trying to hide things from us. But you've got to see this, and this is the actual editorial opinion from the Idaho Statesman. Banning media from Idaho Republican caucus is business as usual for this club. Now, if you're like me, and by the way, I register as a Republican, but I do not live and breathe Republican politics. There are things Republicans do that frustrate me, but in no way do I see, the Idaho Republican Party working against freedom. Now, there are members of the Idaho Republican Party who apparently will vote contrary to the party platform. So they're in a party and say, yes, yeah, this is me, but they don't necessarily vote the way that the party says it believes. And it really makes you stop and wonder. Okay, now, so as far as media saying that, well, they're not even letting the media come in to check out the tabulation or to be part of this GOP caucus, I want you to get, first of all, some clarification from the Idaho GOP itself. We wanted to make sure the handful of Statesman's readers get the actual information. That was very kind of them. And it probably didn't take long for all 5 readers to figure that out. The caucus rules prioritize election integrity with measures such as paper ballots, hand counting, and witnesses. Nothing is concealed or hidden. Rather, the tabulation process will be done openly before the assembly with representatives from each campaign as witnesses. This commitment to complete transparency ensures a fair and accountable process. Now, keep in mind, we're talking media types who already have kind of an inflated sense of self-importance. But, the idea that this is not legitimate unless we're a part of it. Well, are you a Republican? Do you plan on participating? Well, no. Sorry, that's who this event is for. And that's something I guess the media has a hard time doing. It's not that they can't show up at all. They can wait outside, though, until it's over and then question people just like they do when people are voting, So I want to turn to Brent Regan, Idaho GOP Rules Chairman. He offered a couple things, and I'm just going to share these with you to push back on this idea that, this is why we need open primaries. This is why we need ranked choice voting. People who cannot get elected on the merits of their own, of their issues. If the merits aren't enough to sell the voters, well, then we got to find another way to get power. And that's why they want to muddy the waters and confuse the system. Well, they're a Republican. They must be okay. Do they vote like a Republican or do they vote like a Democrat? We've talked about that a few times on this program. So Brent Regan says, as we approach the March 2nd presidential preference caucus, the amount of misinformation being generated by media and talking heads is stunning. At the Republican Party headquarters, literally half the staff's time is being consumed correcting this misinformation. Now, part of this effort is to be expected because the caucus process is new and people have legitimate questions. He says, now many of those questions can be answered at the Idaho Republican Caucus.com website. There you have it. If you're serious about finding out, you might want to actually go to the source yourself. He says, I've also attempted to explain the process in my previous Common Sense articles. Now, Brent Regan says, starting with the headline from the Idaho Capital Sun, which reads, Idaho GOP won't allow news media inside upcoming Republican presidential caucus, followed by the claim, Chairman Moon's decision to block press access to the presidential caucus and official tabulation of votes betrays the presumption of openness that inheres in our democracy. Oh, there it is, our democracy. Now, Brent says, look, this borders on journalistic malpractice. Chairman Moon did not make the decision. She's simply following the rules set forth by the 225 members of the Republican State Central Committee. Also, balloting requires a degree of secrecy to preserve the voters' privacy and prevent intimidation by bad actors, including members of the news media. Something to think about. The caucus is being conducted at 210 locations. Under state party rules, this is a direct quote, only eligible voters and their minor children shall be admitted into the caucus. No other guests will be permitted. Now, Brent asks, even without that rule, rather, would you like to have reporters and cameramen inside your polling location recording you as you cast your private vote? And the answer is probably not, because it would be an invasion of your privacy and also a security issue. Reporters are typically stationed outside a polling location where they can ask questions and conduct exit polling. Exactly. But we want to be on the inside. Oh, okay. Well, then be a Republican and participate. Now, just because random members of the media are not allowed inside the caucus location does not mean the tabulation is done in secret, says Brent Regan. Again, the state party rules specify each candidate or designee may observe the tabulating process. And why not? They're the ones that actually have skin in the game. Brent says when a reporter urges Idaho GOP leaders to reverse their decision, knowing full well it's specified in the rules and not a decision, followed by saying, what are they trying to hide? That's a clear manifestation of an acute lack of situational awareness. Now, Brent reminds us the freedom of the press comes with the responsibility to the truth, meaning to present the unbiased facts free of speculation so the citizen can be better informed. But he says, sadly, we are far away from that condition. Democracy demands the rational evaluation of candidates based on fact. For members of the media to try to tip the scales of that evaluation with biased reporting, that's the true threat to democracy. Now, I have to say, Brent, he's landing pretty hard on these members of the media. At the same time, though, he also pointed out, and I think rightly so, there was one newspaper, at least one news organization, that printed an article on this, and I think actually got it right. That would be East Idaho News. Idaho GOP gearing up for March 2nd caucus. Here's what you can expect. I read through the whole article, and believe me, I was looking for, okay, where's the bias? Where are the shit? No, it was just facts. They weren't shading information one way or the other. There was no editorializing. There was no, pregnant hints about, well, they might be hiding something if we aren't a part of this. Pretty neat to see factual information. So chalk that up. Thank you, East Idaho News, for doing the job of journalism and giving people enough facts that they can make their own conclusions. It's so simple. I wish other news organizations would do likewise. By the way, let's talk about a couple quick wins here. The Bill H-493, banning government bodies from creating or enforcing mask mandates, passed. But you look at every one of those names in red, and just keep in mind, that is a person who, for whatever reason, is willing to vote in favor of maintaining the ability to lock down, mask, otherwise intrude on your life, even if it's something that doesn't work. And I'm sorry that this is a whole topic for another show, but the masks did not work as advertised, and yet still we had these mandates. Ridiculous. It's right to put this in law and say, nope. Health departments and health authorities, they can be advisors. Tell us their best information. We'll definitely consider it. But if it's serious enough that people need to be masking up, like really need to be masking up, you're not going to have to mandate it. They'll be doing it. They'll be doing it because they're motivated, for the right reasons. All right, one final win, and this one just tickled me because Brian Lenny is one of those state senators who I think takes a lot of heat, but it's because he's standing for freedom, lower government. Oh, and in this case, I really love this: less privileges for government cronies. So this bill actually did pass. Or I'm sorry, this bill actually was killed. A bill which was going to throw a giant indestructible shield around Big Pharma, in this case, Bayer and their cash cow glyphosate in Roundup. And what it was going to do was give them immunity. So, wow, what a great thing! It's like our legislature would just be looking out for him. And Brian Lenny's response, I think, is right on target. Are you kidding me? Where's the accountability? Where's the protection for the little guy, the everyday person who trusts that these products that have this glyphosate inside it, that they're actually safe and not causing harm? He asks, are we trading crops for cancer? Slamming the door on this one isn't just a no. He says it's a hell no. Corporate immunity on this level isn't just over the top. It's a leap into the realm where consumer safety takes a backseat to profit. And he says, that's a ride I'm not willing to take. Now, look, I know that there's a lot of twisting and spinning the news to, well, these politicians with the new taxes and new programs and new rules are just trying to make your life better. Nope. The people who are trying to make your life better are the people who are trying to keep government on its leash, limited to protecting your rights, limited to spending only what is essential for it to function and not a penny more. Now, unfortunately, those are people who get fought against because there's a lot of special interests. There's a lot of various players, corporate interests, for instance, that have found that with money, they can buy influence, as in legislative influence. And it's a crazy thing to see the pushback that's coming on the system here. But every time there's been major friction in this session, I believe this week was one of those weeks. It's usually because of IACI or other special interests that come with lots of money that buys a lot of influence that legislators, then are on the hook to deliver. We'll have some more thoughts about that coming up in the next week. In the meantime, think for yourself, question everything, and we'll see you next time on Nowhere to Hide.
Are biased, the Idaho Press Club are biased, all media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Well, Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
dark money is influencing policy in our state.
Well, that's not